Hey guys, welcome back. This video is going to be on MyFundedFutures. MyFundedFutures is one of the more popular prop firms out there right now because of their competitively cheap prices they offer and the value they give in return. But we'll get into all that in a minute. This video is going to break down all the rules, the evaluation plans, payout policies, and my overall general thoughts on the prop firm. I'll make sure this is the only video you'll need to watch to understand everything about MyFundedFutures. So without further ado, let's get started. So the easiest way to break all this down is explaining the rules and prices for each plan type. And MyFundedFutures offers 3 plans. You have your starter plan, starter plus plan, and your expert plan. Each have their pros and cons, so hopefully this video will help allow you to make the best decision on what plan is best for you. So let's start with the starter plan. Like with the other plans, which we'll get to later in this video, the starter plan offers 3 account sizes. You have your 50K, 100K, and 150K accounts. The price for the 50K account is $80 a month, $150 a month for the 100K, and $220 a month for the 150K. The starter plan will have the cheapest prices compared to the starter plus and expert plans, but then they will also have more restrictions, which we'll talk about in a second. Obviously, the monthly payments will stop once you pass the evaluation, so these subscription prices could very well be a one-time cost if you can pass in less than a month, which a lot of people do, but there are no maximum or minimum days required to pass the evaluation. Take as much time or as little time as you'd like. The reset fees are the same prices as the initial fees, but one cool thing to note, if you still haven't passed an evaluation when the month ends and you have to pay for next month's subscription, you'll earn a free reset if you close that month in profit. This free reset can be used at any point in the future, but you can only have one free reset available at any given time. So definitely a cool benefit there I wanted to mention, but an even cooler benefit is a sim-funded reset. So a sim-funded reset is just that. Once you pass the evaluation and you transition to a sim-funded account, but then you fail that funded account, you will have an option to reset that account without having to take the evaluation again. That means you'll go straight into the funded account again, and this option is only available in the starter plan, not the starter plus or expert plans. But because it's a sim account compared to an evaluation, it does come at a high price. The reset fee for a sim account is $450 for the 50K account, $800 for the 100K, and $1,200 for the 150K. You get a maximum of 3 resets per account if you choose to spend that much, because again, it is expensive. The profit target in order to pass the evaluation is $3,000 for the 50K account, $6,000 for the 100K, and $9,000 for the 150K. MyFundedFutures uses an end of day drawdown as opposed to an intraday drawdown, which is awesome. So for those of you who are new to prop firms and need help with the difference between the two, I'll help illustrate it through a graph. So say you have a 50K account, which is what your starting balance is going to be. Your drawdown for this account is $2,500. That means if your account goes below $47,500, you will fill the account because 50K minus $2,500 is $47,500. But it won't always remain at $47,500, which I'll explain in a second. So say you make $500 profit for the day, increasing your balance from 50K to $50,500. Your drawdown also goes up by $500 to $48,000 because the drawdown is always trailing you until it gets to your starting balance plus $100. So in the 50K example, your drawdown will continue to trail you until it gets to $50,100. But let's get to the main point, which is the difference between an end of day drawdown and an intraday drawdown. So with an end of day drawdown, say you're making another $1,000 in profits, bringing the balance to $51,500, but you don't sell. The trade goes against you and you ultimately lose your $1,000 and you sell at break even. An end of day drawdown only calculates your P&L once your trades are closed at the end of the day to determine your final profit. So in this case, for this particular day, your profit was 0. Even though you were making $1,000, it was not realized. And again, you sold break even. So your drawdown balance remains at $48,000, still keeping your full $2,500 drawdown intact. With an intraday drawdown, however, using the same example, when you were making $1,000, bringing your balance to $51,500, your drawdown balance also increased to $49,000, even if you didn't sell, because that's what an intraday drawdown does. It trails even your unrealized gains, which is not favorable, because when the trade went against you and you lost that $1,000, your balance still remained at $50,500, but your drawdown balance went up to $49,000, leaving you with only a $1,500 drawdown instead of the initial $2,500. That's why an end of day drawdown is significantly more preferable. So I hope that example made sense. Let's get back to the table. So for the starter plan 50K account, the trailing max drawdown is $2,500, $3,500 for the 100K account, and $5,000 for the 150K account. So again, if you hit these limits and go below it, you will fail your evaluation and lose your funded account. So I consider the drawdown the most important number to be aware of when it comes to prop firm trading. Let's talk about the daily loss limit. The daily loss limit is the most you can lose within a day before your account becomes locked until the next trading day. So although hitting your your daily loss limit won't permanently lose your account like the drawdown limit is still something to be aware of. The starter plan is the only plan that has a daily loss limit. The starter plus and extra plans do not. But again, you are paying more for those. The daily loss limit for the 50K account is $1,200, $2,400 for the 100K account, and $3,600 for the 150K account. Now let's talk about scaling. The starter plan does have a scaling rule in place as well as the starter plus. The only one that doesn't is the expert plan, which we'll get to later. But the scaling rule states that you cannot open more contracts than the allowed specified amount depending on the balance that you have. And here's an image I got directly from MyFundedFutures website that breaks down how many mini and micro contracts you can buy or short based on your account size and the profits you've made for that account so far. Another important detail to keep in mind, the scaling rule does not apply to the evaluation or a live funded account. It only applies to a sim funded account. Let's move on. There is a consistency rule for the starter plan. The consistency rule states that you cannot have a trading day exceed more than 40% of your total profits, and this is per payout period. But like the scaling rule, the consistency rule does not apply to the evaluation or live account. It only applies to the sim funded account. If a single trading day ends up exceeding 40%, you just have to keep trading until your total profits are high enough that any single trading day is not greater than 40%. So an example would be, say you make $5,000 total profits, but you had a trading day in which you made $2,500 to account for that $5,000. That day would be 50% of the total profits, well above the 40% threshold. So in order to know how much profits you need to make, you simply take your best trading day and divide it by 40%. So in this case, it's $2,500 divided by 0.4, which equals $6,250. So you would have to make at least $1,250 more profit in order to meet the consistency rule. I hope all that made sense, but please leave any questions down below for me to answer. Let's talk about the max number of contracts you can trade per account size. For the 50K, it's 3 minis or 30 micros. For the 100K, it's 6 minis or 60 micros. And for the 150K, it's 9 minis or 90 micros. And for those of you who don't know, a micro contract is 1/10 of a mini contract. Trading micros gives you a lot more flexibility, especially if you have a smaller account or if you want to buy various contracts to sell a portion at different price targets. Whereas doing something like that with mini contracts would be significantly more expensive and you certainly be taking on a heavier position size. But do keep in mind the scaling rule for these minis and micros. You can only trade these max contracts once you pass the balance threshold from that earlier scaling rule image I showed you. Let's talk about the payouts. For the 50K account, you need 5 winning days of $100 or more in order to qualify for a payout, 5 winning days of $200 for the 100K account, and 5 winning days of $300 for the 150K account. But let's break this down even more. There's going to be a lot to take in here, but I'm going to try to simplify as best I can, so bear with me. The minimum amount required for all 3 accounts is at least $250 when trying to withdraw profits, meaning you can't withdraw less profits than that, otherwise your payout won't be approved. The maximum you can withdraw for the 50K account is $1,200 for each payout, but this restriction lifts after 30 winning days, or if you achieve $6,000 total in payouts, whichever comes first. The reason this restriction lifts is because after 30 winning days, or if you achieve 6K in payouts first, you will transition to a live account, which we'll talk about in a second. For the 100K account, the maximum is $2,400, but again, this restriction lifts after 30 winning days, or if you achieve $12,000 in total payouts. For the 150K account, the maximum you can withdraw is $3,600. Again, like the other accounts, this restriction lifts after 30 winning days or $18,000 in total payouts, whichever comes first. Here's another important detail to remember because it may get lost on some people. Before you take any payouts, regardless of whichever account you're in, you have to abide by the trailing drawdown. So again, your drawdown or maximum loss limit, as MyFundedFutures likes to call it, is $2,500 for the 50K account, $3,500 for the 100K account, and $5,000 for the 150K account. So as you make realized profits for any of the accounts, your balance goes up and so does your drawdown. But all of this goes out the window once you get that first payout, because after that first payout, the maximum loss limit moves to your starting balance plus $100 no matter what. So remember when I said your trailing drawdown stops trailing you at your starting balance plus $100 as you're making profit? Well, it will automatically get there after your first payout, regardless of how much profits you've made. The reason why this is important is because you need to be very mindful of your cushion now when taking payouts. For instance, let's use the 50K account as an example. It says you can request a payout after 5 winning days. Say after 5 days you make $1,000 in total profits, bringing your balance to $51,000. If you decide to withdraw $800 of that, your current balance goes to $50,200, but because you took your first payout, your maximum loss limit also moves to $50,100, leaving you with only a $100 cushion. So if you fall below $100 while trading, you lose your funded account. So it's best to build a big cushion before asking for a payout, even though you only need 5 winning days each time. I hope all of that made sense, but if it does doesn't, again, just ask in the comments down below. For the profit split, the trader gets to keep 100% of the first $10,000, and then it goes to a 90-10 split after that. Certainly an industry high among prop firms, and this applies to all 3 accounts. So lastly, let's talk about the payout policy for the live account. As I mentioned earlier, you become eligible for a live account after 30 winning days or $6,000 in payouts for the 50K account, 30 winning days or $12,000 in payouts for the 100K account, and 30 winning days or $18,000 in payouts for the 150K account. Once you meet these parameters, MyFundedFutures will automatically move you to a live account. With a live account, you will be transitioned to a $2,500 static account for the 50K account, $3,500 static account for the 100K account, and $5,000 static account for the 150K account. A static account means there is no drawdown limit you need to be mindful of, and that's the biggest difference between the sim account and live account as far as payout policy goes. With the live account, you can withdraw daily, and you will be trading with real market, which means trading with real money. So the only way to lose a live account is basically losing your balance, which again is $2,500 for the 50K, $3,500 for the 100K, and $5,000 for the 150K. Let's get back to the table. As far as activation fees, there are none for any of the accounts, again making MyFundedFutures one of the more valuable prop firms out there as far as what you're getting and what you're paying. Trading the news is allowed, but for evaluations only. It is not allowed for funded accounts. Now let's move on to the next plan, which is the Starter Plus plan. The price for the Starter Plus 50K account is $120, $200 for the 100K account, and $300 for the 150K account. Again, this is a monthly cost until you can pass the evaluation. The reset cost is the same as the initial cost for all the Starter Plus accounts, but again, the reset is only available for the evaluations, not the sim funded accounts like they are with the regular starter plan. The Starter Plus profit target is the same as the starter plan, which is $3,000 for the 50K account, $6,000 for the 100K account, and $9,000 for the 150K account. Now the end of day drawdown or maximum loss limit is actually $500 less in the Starter Plus plan than it is the starter plan for each of the accounts. It's $2,000 for the 50K account, $3,000 for the 100K account, and $9,000 for the 150K account. So you would benefit more on the starter plan as far as drawdown goes. But again, the Starter Plus plan has less restrictions than the starter plan, so that's the trade-off. With the Starter Plus plan, there is no daily loss limit like there is with the starter plan, so that's one of those restrictions I alluded to earlier. Like the regular starter plan, there is a scaling rule for the Starter Plus plan. Here's an image breaking it down for each of the account sizes. As you can see, it's all based on profits made, so if you're below a certain amount of profits, you can only trade X amount of contracts. But like the starter plan, the scaling rule only applies to the sim funded account. There are no scaling rules for the evaluation or the live funded account for the Starter Plus plan. The max number of contracts you can trade are 3 minis or 15 micros for the 50K account, 6 minis or 30 micros for the 100K, and 9 minis or 45 micros for the 150K account. Let's move on to the consistency rule. So the biggest difference between the regular starter plan and the Starter Plus plan is that the regular starter plan has a consistency rule in the sim funded account but not the evaluation. Well, for the Starter Plus plan, there is no consistency rule for the sim funded account, but there is for the evaluation. The consistency rule states that your best trading day cannot exceed 50% of your total profits in the evaluation, and that's for all 3 account sizes. And again, there are no consistency rules for the live account for any of the plans, so just something to keep in mind there if you get transitioned to one. The payout policy is exactly the same in the Starter Plus plan as it is the starter plan. You can withdraw a payout after 5 winning days of $100 for the 50K account, 5 winning days of $200 for the 100K account, and 5 winning days of $300 for the 150K account. The minimum withdrawal required is at least $250 each time for a payout. You can only withdraw up to $1,200 for each payout for the 50K account until you reach 30 winning days or $6,000 in payouts, in which case you will be moved over to a live account. You can only withdraw up to $2,400 for the 100K account until you reach 30 winning days or achieve $12,000 in payouts, in which case you will be moved to a live account. And finally, you can only withdraw up to $3,600 for each payout for the 150K account until you reach 30 winning days or $18,000 in payouts, in which case you will be moved over to a live account. For all 3 accounts, once you make your first payout, the maximum loss limit automatically moves to the starting balance plus $100. So as we talked about earlier, very important to keep that cushion in mind before taking a withdrawal. Like I said, exactly the same as the starter plan, as well as the live accounts. You'll get a static account of $2,500 for the 50K account, $3,500 for the 100K account, and $5,000 for the 150K account. There is no drawdown limit you need to worry about in a live account, and you can withdraw as much profits as you'd like on a daily basis. There is no activation fee you need to worry about in the Starter Plus plan as well, but unlike the regular starter plan, you can trade the news on both the evaluation and the sim funded account for the Starter Plus plan. But just the sim account, as far as funded accounts, trading the news is not allowed in the live account. Now finally, let's move on to the expert plan. The expert plan is going to have the least restrictions out of all the plans, but will be the most expensive. The 50K account expert plan is $165, $265 for the 100K, and $375 for the 150K. The reset costs are the same as the initial cost for all three accounts. You can only reset the evaluation, not the sim funded account like the starter plan. The profit target for the 50K account is $4,000, $8,000 for the 100K, and $12,000 for the 150K. These profit targets are higher in the expert plan than they are in the starter and starter plus plans, so just keep that in mind. The trailing max drawdown, which again is end of day, is $2,000 for the 50K, $3,000 for the 100K, and $4,500 for the 150K. The max position contract for the 50K is 5 contracts, 10 contracts for the 100K, and 15 contracts for the 150K. With the expert plan, there is no daily loss limit, no scaling rule, and no consistency rule for either of the three accounts. And this goes for both the evaluation and funded accounts. There is no activation fee like the starter and starter plus plans. As far as payouts go, payouts are every 14 calendar days, meaning every 14 days you are eligible to request a payout. The minimum payout required under the expert plan is $1,000, unlike the starter and starter plus plans, which are only $250. But then under the expert plan, there is no max limit to how much you can withdraw. You can withdraw as much profits as you please. And unlike the starter and starter plus plans, which have a set parameter of 30 winning days or X amount in payouts of when you transition to a live account, it's not set in stone in the expert plan. The risk and compliance team will monitor and review your expert account depending on how consistent, profitable, and among other factors in order to upgrade you to a live account. And like your starter and starter plus, your drawdown automatically goes up to your starting balance plus $100 after your first payout under the expert plan. So that rule is the same for all plans. I believe I've covered most, if not all, details for each of the plans that MyFundedFutures offers. If I've missed anything or if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. I know that can be overwhelming because it's a lot of information, but please use the tables I provided to help guide you on what plan might be best for you. Lastly, let's talk about other things you guys need to be aware of for MyFundedFutures. These are all the supported platform choices that MyFundedFutures offers, with NinjaTrader and TradingView being the most popular among prop firms. Let's talk about data fees. MyFundedFutures offers free level 1 data for all plans, but level 2 data is going to cost $39 a month, and the Data Pro, which is the professional data for a live account, is going to cost $124 a month. This cost will be deducted from your profits made in that account, and it is mandatory to have Data Pro for a live account. Another thing about payouts is that they can take 1 to 3 business days, but I've heard from traders that it can be a lot faster than that, sometimes even within the hour. Withdrawal submissions can be Monday to Friday with the cutoff time at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Another rule you need to be aware of: to keep your account from being deactivated due to inactivity, you must place at least 1 trade in a 7-day cycle on your sim funded account. This rule only applies to the sim account, not the evaluation or live accounts. You can have up to 3 sim funded accounts at any given time. MyFundedFutures also offers 24-hour support most days of the week via chat or email. Response time with chat has been as quick as 2 minutes to as slow as 30 minutes. It's really going to depend on how busy they are. The last 2 things I wanted to touch on are micro scalping and the 2% price limit rule. First, let's talk about micro scalping, because this rule seems to be what detracts some traders from purchasing MyFundedFutures, and understandably so, even though they offer the cheapest overall cost to getting funded. So micro scalping is prohibited with MyFundedFutures, and what it basically means is making a large number of trades within a short amount of time for minimal profits. So the way MyFundedFutures breaks it down specifically is through 4 characteristics. Number 1, short trade duration, which means trades that are typically held for less than 15 seconds. Number 2, minimal profit targets, which means aiming for a profit of less than 5 points. Number 3, high trade frequency, which means executing a large number of trades within a short time frame. And finally, number 4, tight stops and limits, which means very tight stop losses and taking profits quickly. All of this is considered micro scalping and is basically forbidden. MyFundedFutures doesn't want you getting in and out of trades within mere seconds for little profits as your trading strategy. They feel the strategy can lead to significant losses and can be problematic in certain trading environments due to its dependency on perfect market conditions and low slippage. At least that's how their FAQ section puts it. They have plenty of examples too, illustrating what micro scalping is. Like I said, just go to their FAQ section on MyFundedFutures website and type micro scalping and click on the first link. It's going to break down examples for each of the 4 characteristics we talked about here, so you can get a better understanding of it. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, especially if you've relied on this strategy in the past, I totally understand. You just have to make the best decision for yourself if you feel MyFundedFutures is the best prop firm for you. Lastly, let's talk about the 2% price limit rule. And by the way, this rule only applies to the sim and live funded accounts, not the valuation, so you don't have to worry about it there. So MyFundedFutures justifies this rule by keeping their traders safe from high volatility and risky market conditions. To do this rule prevents trading when a product is within 2% of a CME price limit. This apparently helps protect traders from major losses during extreme market swings. A price limit is the maximum price range allowed for a futures contract in a trading session. When a market hits this limit, different things can happen, like a temporary halt until limits can be expanded, staying at the limit, or stopping trading for the day based on its regulations. The overnight price limits for equity products, which are your ES, NQ, Russell, Dow Jones, and their respective micro products, have increased from 5% to 7%. To avoid trading within 2% of any price limit, you should check the percent net change for the contract on your trading platform's quote board. For example, if the price limit is now 7%, you can calculate the levels to identify when to stop trading if you're within 2% of that limit. If none of this made sense, by all means ask down below and I will do my best in clarifying it better. If you guys want to support this channel, please consider using my affiliate code BREAK when purchasing an evaluation with MyFundedFutures. It'll give you the best deal available, and currently MyFundedFutures is running a 5% discount at the time of this video. So if you're interested, you can click the link down below in the description or the first comment that I'll have pinned, and that'll take you directly to their website, and you can purchase any of their plans we discussed in this video for any one of the 3 account sizes. Other than that, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing for more content. Like I said, if you have any questions at all, please leave them in the comments down below. Or actually, if you have a favorite prop firm, let me know that in the comment section as well and tell me why it's your favorite. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.